Hello everyone, I hope I'm coming through loud and clear. Am I coming through loud and clear? I'm scared now. In fact, I'm not seeing anything there, so just bear with me a second while I bring up a different tab and make sure that I'm actually live. Hope you're all well. Oh, something's happening now. But, hey, it's working. That's a clever boy. And they said I'd never amount to anything. What does St. Joseph's know, eh? Hello, Johan. Nice to see you, mate. Right, heroes. Let's get cracking, shall we? So, heroes, of course. Oh, it's scary, this, because my browser is acting a bit weirdly. Still, there's 12 of you out there, apparently, so it must be working. Okie dokie. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see instantaneous comments because this is acting a bit strangely. Usual drill with heroes, we'll do the same as with mice and men. So I'll read a chunk of it every day at 10:30, and then you can ask questions. So if I get a chance, I'll look at the questions at the time, and I'll have a look at them and answer as I'm going along. If I'm not able to do that, I'll come back to all the questions at the end. But usually, we're all right to get the comments up. So I'm just going to fiddle with this for a second because it really isn't showing me any comments. And I don't know why. Oh, I can hear myself. That's a shock. Okay, well that wasn't supposed to happen either. Right, okay, let's crack on. So heroes, set of course in the second... the Second World War. I have got comments now. It's slightly off-putting because the page to comment on, it appears to be buffering, but I'm alright. I'm hoping the sound quality is much better. I'm taking a bit of a risk here. I've changed room. Hi Sophie. I've changed room. I'm borrowed our cat. I've changed location. God, I'm waffling that, aren't I? I've changed location because the sound quality is much better. I've got my microphone set up and all that malarkey. However, the downside of it is that the connection's not as good here. So if we start buffering, I will grab my laptop and run downstairs and carry on there. But if we're okay, I'll keep going. Right, so heroes. No GCSE literature text. It's set during after the Second World War and during and before. I made that complicated. Set around the Second World War, and it's a good one. Miss Tompkins there saying hello. She's looking forward to another book. This is a good one. It's powerful. I'll have to make a little warning on the bottom to say that it's something that we need to. It's got adult themes in it from the very start. Because, like I say, it's a book about the effects of, well, many things, but war initially. It's also got a clever structure, but you have to focus on it, and I'll try and keep commenting on it as we go along, because it skips around in time. And some pupils get a little confused by this, so I'm hoping that you'll be all right. Basically, what happens is, the start of the book, he is talking after the war, but then he will have flashbacks talking about things that have happened earlier, before and during the war. I think it's fairly clear, but I'll make it clear at the start of each chapter when this action is setting, because occasionally people do get a bit mixed up with it. He also is very clever because he creates cute little Easter eggs. Hi, Alfie. He leaves us neat little questions hanging in our minds. So he'll drop hints of something to come and make you think, what? So it's quite entertaining in that way, sort of a bit cliffhangery. Anyway, what you need to understand is this main character, the person telling the story, the narrator, is Joseph Casavant. He's a young man who has come back from the Second World War. I don't think I need to waffle any longer. Let's get cracking, chaps. Okay. Got on a Kindle. Thank you if Damon is there for suggesting I actually make the effort to buy a copy because I couldn't get our hands on one from school. It does mean I don't have to put reading glasses on as well, so I'll look more classy. It's got a very striking start. I apologise again if it didn't do the Mice and Men stuff. I interrupt constantly, interrupt myself trying to say what's going on. So here we go. My name is Francis Joseph Cassavant, and I've just returned to Frenchtown in Monument, and the war is over, and I have no face. Sheesh, what a first sentence. What a first sentence. So this long list, and it all sounds dull. Mundane's a nice word. You know, sort of boring every day. I've just come from the war, and I have no face. Just like thrown in like that. This really shocking comment, just to really give you a punch in the guts at the end of the first sentence of the whole book. He has no face. Oh my God. What does he mean? Let's carry on and find out. Oh, I have eyes because I can see, and eardrums because I can hear, but no ears to speak of. Just bits of dangling flesh. But that's fine, like Dr. Abrams says, because it's sight and hearing that count, and I wasn't handsome to begin with. He was joking, of course. He was always trying to make me laugh. If anything bothers me, it's my nose, or rather, the absence of my nose. My nostrils are like two small caves, and they sometimes get blocked, and I have to breathe through my mouth. This dries up my throat and makes it hard for me to swallow. I also become hoarse and cough a lot. My teeth are gone, but my jaw is intact and my gums are firm, which makes it possible for me to wear dentures. In the past few weeks, my gums began to shrink, however, and the dentures have become loose and they click when I talk and slip around inside my mouth. I have no eyebrows, but eyebrows are minor, really. I do have cheeks, sort of. I mean, the skin that forms my cheeks was grafted from my thighs and has taken a long time to heal. My thighs sting when my pants rub against them. Dr. Abrams says that all my skin will heal in time and my cheeks will someday be as smooth as a baby's arse. That's the way he pronounced it, arse. In the meantime, he said, don't expect anybody to select you for a dance when it's girls' choice at the canteen. Don't take him wrong, please. He has a great sense of humour and has been trying to get me to develop one. I've been trying to do just that, but not having much success. So, to his shocking opening section, he has no face, and then he continues to shock us by really going into detail about the horror of his injuries. He has no nose, his ears are bits of dangling flesh, all these different descriptions. Oh, it's horrific, isn't it? And one of the themes that often comes up in the exam is how this is an anti-war novel. It shows the horror of war. And if you get a question like that, you are laughing. You can't go wrong. So basically, if you have that, just dive in and well, here's the first bit, and it's all the way through. The horrors of war, the terrible disfigurement that he has suffered, and the massive reconstructive surgery he's going through. But he does say he has not got a face. Now, just breaking off for a second, Miss Tompkins has said that she's lagging there. Now, obviously, that could just be that Miss has not got the best connection, but as I said to you at the start of the broadcast, I've moved location. I'm slightly worried I could be moving away from the hot point of my Wi-Fi. Am I lagging for anyone else? Am I coming through okay for the rest of you? If you'd just quickly let me know, or just like it, just so I know. That sounds like a stunt to gather likes, doesn't it? But if you could maybe just let me know quickly, because I will move downstairs where the connection's much better, but I'm a bit more muffled, which is how a lot of people prefer me, to be honest. So if you could just let me know if I'm going through. And Jenny, yes as in sound okay, or yes as in dodgy? Or is it like? That's good then, that's positive, excellent. Okay. So if we're just triangulating this, if it's Miss Tompkins' bad connection, then fair enough. Damon, good man. Right, smashing. Let's crack on then. Excellent. Looks like at the moment we're all right. Okay, so carry on. I wear a scarf that covers the lower part of my face. The scarf is white and silk like the aviators wore in their airplanes during the First World War over the battlefields and trenches of Europe. I like to think that it flows behind me in the wind when I walk, but I guess it doesn't. There's a red socks cap on my head, and I tilt the cap forward so that the visor keeps the upper part of my face in shadow. I walk with my head down, as if I've lost money on the sidewalk and I'm looking for it. I keep a bandage on the space where my nose used to be. The bandage reaches the back of my head and is kept in place with a safety pin. There are problems, of course. My nose, or should I say, my caves, run a lot. I don't know why this should happen, and even the doctors can't figure it out, but it's like I have a cold that never goes away. The bandage gets wet, and I have to change it often, and it's hard closing the safety pin at the back of my head. I'm wearing my old army fatigue jacket, so I'm well covered up, face and body, although I don't know what I'm going to do when summer comes and the weather gets hot. Right now it's March, cold and rainy, and I'll worry about summer when it gets here, and if I'm still around. Anyway, this gives you an idea of what I look like when I walk down the street. People glance at me in surprise and look away quickly, or cross the street when they see me coming. I don't blame them. This bit here, it's ironic, isn't it? That he talks about wearing a scarf to cover his face because he doesn't want to shock people with the state of his face. But the scarf he's wearing is like aviators wore in the First World War. It's a very romanticized thing, the idea that, you know, these people were heroes. You know, the First World War pilots, I mean, the mortality rate was horrific because the planes weren't terribly safe. They're almost testing them, if you like, in battle. Plus, you know, dangers of crashing, dangers of getting shot. First World War pilots generally didn't get through the war, but they were seen as heroic figures, and this image of them with their flying helmets on and their scarf flying behind them, looking like a hero, is a strong image. And there's our first introduction to another big theme of this: what actually is a hero? I'm not going to go into too much detail now because we'll go into more of that later on, but there you go. He sort of wants to look like a hero from the war, heroes who battle bravely, and yet he looks the opposite, doesn't he? Because he is horrifically disfigured, and although he obviously has been injured in the war, this is not the image of a hero that you expect, is it? So the scarf that he wants to trail behind him like a First World War fighter pilot, but it doesn't, is like a symbol of what is a hero, really. There's this Red Sox cap on his head. I should have said Boston's Red Sox, of course, a baseball team, the one that Liverpool's owners own, football fans, and that gives us a little bit of geography, just to explain something that is important in the book. But it's slightly interesting the way Robert Cormier's invented this. Monument and the area he lives in, Frenchtown, are not real places, but they're very clearly located up on the American-Canadian border. And there's a couple of clear clues. One is Red Sox. There's a lot of talk about baseball in this. Red Sox play in that area. Secondly, and this is strange, Frenchtown, there's quite a bit of French spoken in this. Now, there are little pockets of all sorts of languages across the USA. So that's not unbelievable by any stretch of the imagination. It's much more likely up by the coast, or actually, funnily enough, right down the bottom, but it isn't set there. Up by the coast, up by Canada. Quebec is a French first language area of Canada on the border with America. So up that sort of area, there may well be little French speaking areas. That will become relevant in a bit. Okay, I'll bang on. I've plenty of money. I received all this back pay when I was discharged from Fort Delta. The back pay accumulated during the time I spent in battle in France and then in the hospitals. First in France, then in England. My money's in cash, $100 bills and 20s and 10s. The smaller bills I keep in my wallet, but the rest of the money is stashed in my duffel bag, which is always with me, slung over my shoulder. I'm like the hunchback of Notre Dame, my face like a gargoyle, and the duffel bag like a lump on my back. I'm staying in the attic tenement in Mrs. Belander's 3-decker on 4th Street. She finally answered the door after I'd been knocking for a while, and regarded me with suspicion, not recognising me. This was the proof that the scarf and the bandage working in 2 ways, not only to hide the ugliness of what used to be my face, but to hide my identity. Ooh! I said there'll be little treats, little clues dropped in here. Well, there's one for you. All right. We can all, I'm sure, understand he's gone through this traumatic thing. His face has been destroyed, so he covers it up because he doesn't want to shock people. He's embarrassed by it. But he also has another reason to hide his identity. Why does he want to hide his identity? That tells us there's something else going on here. This is not just a story of a guy coming back to his hometown disfigured. He doesn't want people to know who he is. Ooh, okay. Um, just a couple of little mentions with the scarf around the bandages around his face. There's definitely a deliberate attempt to evoke the idea of the Invisible Man. Not the film that's out now, although I haven't actually seen that. It's based, I guess, on that sort of on the same concept. The Invisible Man is a novel by H.G. Wells, one of the very first science fiction writers, and it's it's a scientist who turns himself invisible, and so to be able to walk around, he wraps himself in bandages, and there's definitely a sort of callback to that here. Invisible Man's a horror story in essence, as well as a science fiction story. It's a terrible, scary story, and so almost like he's a monster, he's different, but also that he wants to be invisible, doesn't he? He wants to hide from other people, so he looks like our image of the Invisible Man. I'm sorry, I should have thought for tomorrow I'll get a picture of him that I can put on the screen to show you an example of it. But if you Google Invisible Man, you'll probably see what I mean. Claude Rains, that spells as in rain. He's the classic actor in the old movies, the image of the Invisible Man. Anyway, and also he compares himself to another literary figure, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You're probably aware of this story. The Hunchback is a sort of disfigured man with the hump on his back who falls in love with the beautiful girl Esmeralda, and he looks really. Oh, how do I say this nicely? He looks very unpleasant, but he is also in many ways heroic, and we are sympathetic to him. So again, this playing with the ideas of heroes. He's comparing himself to people who are maybe heroes, maybe not, who might look like something but don't look like something else. He's building something up here. Anyway, he's gone to see Mrs. Belander, who knows him. So he's also maybe just testing out whether he's identifiable or not. He's staying in the attic tenement. She's renting the room out. Tenements are like small, stubby blocks of flats that they have in America. Think of where they live in Friends in New York. As her small black eyes inspected me from head to toe, I said, "Hello, Mrs. Belander," a further test. She didn't respond to my greeting, and I realised that she didn't recognise my voice either. My larynx, which Dr. Abrams called my organ of voice, had also been damaged by the grenade, and although I can speak, my voice is much lower now and hoarse, as if I have a permanent sore throat. I remembered what Enrico Riccelli in The Last Hospital had said about how money talks, and I began to drum out my wallet when she said, "Veteran?" I nodded and her face softened. "Poor boy." I followed her up the 4 flights of stairs, the blue veins in her legs bulging like worms beneath her skin. The tenement is small, with low slanted ceilings. 2 rooms, kitchen and bedroom. The bed, only a cot really, but everything very neat. Windows sparkling, the floor gleaming with wax, the black stove shining with polish. I glanced at the kitchen window, at the steeples of St. Jude's Church. Craning my neck, I caught a glimpse, between the 3 deckers of the neighbourhood, of the slanted roof of the rec centre. I thought of Nicole Renard, realising I had not thought of her for, maybe 2 hours. Oh, hello, love a little mystery. Who the hell is Nicole Renard? They've got French names, most of the characters. So Nicole Renard, Renard means fox. Are there hidden meanings in some of these names? He's not thought of her for, maybe 2 hours. He seems to be saying he's obsessed with this girl. But what's she got to do with it? Another thing we need to find out. I turned to find Mrs. Belander with a handout. Pink palm turned upward. "In advance," she said. She was always generous when I did her errands, and her tips paid for my 10-cent movie tickets at the Plymouth on Saturday afternoons. She baked me a cake for my 13th birthday. That was 5 years ago. It seems like a very long time. Anyway, I paid her a month's rent, and she wrote out a receipt on the kitchen table. The table was covered with a red and white checkered oiled cloth, like the ones we had at home until the bad times arrived. My caves moistened, and I groped for my handkerchief. She handed me the receipt. It read, Tenant in her shaky handwriting where my name should have been. That was fine by me. At that moment, I knew that I was really anonymous. That I wasn't Francis Joseph Cassavant anymore, but a tenant in Frenchtown. Thank you, Mrs. Belander. Testing again. You know my name, she said, responding this time. Not a question, but a statement. Suspicion returning to her eyes. I thought quickly. On the mailbox downstairs, I answered, guessing that her name was there. But a good guess, as she nodded, satisfied. Stop later at my place, she said, her Canadian accent making the words sing. I make you sturdy soup to help your cold. After she left, I went to the window and looked at the falling rain outside. I was home again in Frenchtown. I thought of the gun hidden away in my duffel bag, and I knew that my mission was about to begin. Oh yes! Oh yes! Okay, so mysteries. What happened to his face? He's just been to war, so probably we can piece a lot of that together, probably. He's come back and he wants to hide his identity. There's a girl he's obsessed with, it seems. He's got a gun, and he's going to use it to complete his mission. Oh, what the heck is going on here? The man with no face returns to his hometown with a violent mission. Oh, hello. A big thing to avoid in writing about books is this thing that pupils often catch on. It's written like this because it makes me want to carry on reading. I'm not saying that's wrong, and this is a beautiful example of it, but only say that sort of thing if you're then going to hit the person reading it with loads and loads of examples of that. Okay, how do they make us want to carry on reading? By giving us these little hooks. Why is that making me want to carry on reading? It's always think why when you're writing about something you've read. Because there is a threat of danger, the gun, romance, Nicole, danger with the mission, and a clear plot's going to occur. Mystery about his face. So it's making us ask lots of questions. You've got to go into that level of detail if you're going to throw that makes you want to read on thing. Later, I light a candle in St. Jude's Church. The smell of burning wax and the fragrance of old incense, the odours of forgiveness fill the church. I remember the days I served as an altar boy for Father Balthazar and the Latin responses I had trouble memorising. I kneel at the communion rail and say my prayers. I pray for Enrico and hope that he'll finally go home and adjust to his condition. Though those are terrible words, adjust and condition. Enrico's now without his legs and is also missing his left arm. Thank Christ I'm right-handed, he once said, but I don't think he was really thanking Christ. I also pray for the souls of my mother and father. My mother died when I was 6, giving birth to my brother, Raymond, who lived only 5.5 hours. My father died years ago of a heart attack in the rub room of the Monument's comb shop, although I always felt he really died with my mother all those years ago. I offer up prayers too for my Uncle Louis, who gave me a place to live until I joined the army. I pray, of course, for Nicole Reynard, wherever she may be. And finally, I pray for Larry LaSalle. It's hard for me to pray for him, and I always hesitate before I can bring myself to say that prayer. Then I think again of what Sister Gertrude taught us in the 3rd grade. Words that she said came from the mouth of Jesus. Pray for your enemies, for those who have done you harm. It's easy to pray for those you love, she said, but it counts more to pray for those who don't love you, that you don't love. So I offer up an Our Father and Hail Mary and Glory Be for Larry LaSalle. Then I'm filled with guilt and shame, knowing I've just prayed for the man I am going to kill. He does know how to finish a section of a book, doesn't he? Oh, hello. A lot to pick out of there. He goes to church. Oh, Mr. Cook, yes. Thank you very much. Yensi. And good to see, Miss Tompkins, that your signal is fine now. The scene in the church. Oh, I forgot to say, remember we learned something else. He's 18. Have a little think about his circumstances. And, you know, the fact that he's 18, is there anything odd about that? He's now said about Larry LaSalle, I have to pray for the man I am going to kill. All right, so looks like we might know what his mission is now. Woof! That's quite something, isn't it? I want to introduce an idea here, which I talked about last time as well. When you're doing English literature, or you're writing about something which you read, so it could apply in comprehension in English language as well. Literature is more of a technique. Equivocal language is something I mentioned last time. The sort of, maybe it's this, perhaps it's that. And I'll apologise if you heard me talking about this. If I remember, it's worth going over again. Just a sec. Right, English is not maths. Whoa, there's a shock. So maths, 2 + 2 = 4. End of. That's the correct answer. 2 + 2 = 5 is wrong. English is more complicated than that. Not trying to offend maths at all. It's not a real subject, is it? In English, if you're reading something and you think you can see a point that a writer's trying to make, you can say, well, maybe it is this, or perhaps it is that. Now, if you do that well, that will get you extra credit, because you are digging into the detail of the text and thinking of different possible interpretations. As long as you back it up with evidence to back up your idea. Now, I'm not saying you can't be wrong. I mean, if you were to say, I think Francis is actually a giraffe, you are wrong. He is not a giraffe. Spoiler alert, he is not a giraffe. So you can be wrong, obviously, in English. But if you've got an idea about something, and you give evidence to back yourself up, and you explain how that evidence makes you think that, then you can only get credit. As long as you don't say something ludicrous. Don't say something ludicrous. So this is a classic example when we use the P technique, isn't it? Point, make a point. Evidence, give the evidence. Explain how the evidence proves the point to be correct. I'll give you an example of this now, because that bit in the church there. See, I'm thinking, as I've mentioned already, other characters who might be seen as heroes or might not be seen as heroes in literature, which clearly are being referred to. Invisible Man, Hunchback of Notre Dame, even the heroes in the First World War, and then comparing to him putting the scarf around his face. Well, here's another one, and I have no idea if Robert Cormier was really thinking this or if it's a bit of a coincidence. When he's praying, he thinks of Larry LaSalle, and he wants to kill Larry LaSalle, so he finds it hard to pray for him, but he remembers that Sister Gertrude told him that you should pray for your enemies. This reminds me a bit of Hamlet. In the play Hamlet, Hamlet's father, before the play begins, has been murdered, and his uncle has become king. And Hamlet finds out that it was the uncle, he's told, who killed his father. And he thinks, I'm going to kill him. So he's off with his sword, and immediately after hearing this, he sees his uncle, who apparently has killed his father, kneeling in a chapel praying in their castle. And he thinks, here we are, here we go, I'll kill him now, over and done with. That would make this a very short play. Gets his sword out, and he's standing there, the guy doesn't know he's there, and he thinks, I can't do this. The reason he can't do it is a religious belief that if you kill somebody when they're praying, they go straight to heaven, and he wants him to go to hell. So he's not willing to do it, so he puts his sword away. This then leads the whole point of the play, where Hamlet is gripped with doubt. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Is it true? Is it not true? And there's a hell of a lot of bloodshed as he makes his mind up, basically. If you're in Hamlet, you're likely to die. Okay? His mother, who marries the uncle, allowing him to be king, is called Gertrude, like Sister Gertrude. Is this a coincidence that Hamlet, a figure who is sort of a hero, but also not a hero, because he does some bad things, and he fails to act decisively, can't make his mind up, is that another one of those characters that Cormier is trying to suggest to us? I don't know. I might be completely wrong. Cormier coincidentally called it Gertrude. Gertrude his mum tries to tell Hamlet, be nice to your new daddy. Yeah? Sister Gertrude, be nice to the man who you dislike. Might be a coincidence, but if I put it in an exam and I said, perhaps by using the name Gertrude in this prayer scene, he's trying to remind us of Hamlet and his desire to kill the king, which he cannot do because of prayer, you know, you can't say I'm wrong. I might be absolutely right. I might be completely wrong, but prove it. And if I am wrong, if Cormier wasn't thinking of that, am I wrong? It's an intelligent idea. Don't get many of them. Come on, cut me some slack. Okay, let's read a little bit more. What time is it? It's 11. Do another 10 minutes or so. I know we all get tired. Before going to bed, I stand in front of the mirror in the bathroom. My hair's a mess as usual, thin in some spots, thick in others. For some reason my hair began to fall out in clumps my first few days in the hospital in France, and it's grown back the same way. I apply Vaseline to my cheeks. I make myself look at my caves and the way the shape of my mouth has changed because of the dentures. I roll the dentures around in my mouth and remember what Dr. Abrams said, that I should have a better fitting pair made in a few months when my gums stopped shrinking. He also gave me his address in Kansas City, where he'll be in practice when he returns from the war. Great strides have been made in cosmetic surgery, Francis, he said. One of the few benefits of the war. Look me up when you've a mind to. He was tall and looked like Abraham Lincoln. Should practice his cosmetic surgery on himself, Enrico said. Enrico always had something to say about anything and everything. I sometimes think that he talked so much to cover up the pain. Here comes more horror of wars bits. Even when he laughed, making a sound like a saw going through wood, you could see the pain flashing in his eyes. If you want to forget Nicole, he said one afternoon, when we were tired of cards and checkers, here's what you do. He put down the deck of cards he was practicing on to shuffle with one hand. You get out the army and get yourself to a home for the blind. There must be a good-looking blind girl somewhere just waiting for a nice guy like you. I looked to see if he was joking. Even when he was joking, though, it was hard to tell because his voice was always sharp and bitter and the pain never left his eyes. You're a big hero, he said, a Silver Star hero. You should have no trouble finding a girl, as long as she can't see your face. He tried to shake a cigarette from his pack of Luckies and 3 or 4 fell to the floor. A blind girl now is right up your alley. I'm not a hero, of course, and I turned away in disgust. But later that night, lying awake, I wondered if I could really find a blind girl to love me. Ridiculous. What made me think that a blind girl would automatically fall in love with just anyone at all? Forget it, I said to Enrico the next day. Forget what? His voice was a gasp from the pain in his legs, which were not there anymore. He kept massaging the air that occupied the space his legs used to fill. But the blind girl. What blind girl? Never mind, I said, closing my eyes against the sight of his hand clawing the air. It's still Nicole, isn't it? He said. I didn't have to answer because we both knew it was true. It would always be Nicole Reynard. And even though I'm home from the war, I wonder if I will ever see her again. Quite a lot to pick out in that section. I'll focus on the horrors of war for a moment, but there's other bits. Horrors of war. Enrico, who's in pain, who, as he said, he feels is trying to joke to cover the pain, and who scratches at his legs, but he's only got one limb. He's only got his right hand, doesn't he? His right arm, his left arm's gone, his legs are gone. He scratches at his legs, but they're not there. That's called phantom limb syndrome. And I had a cat who had a back leg missing, bless her, and she thought it was still there sometimes. And she would try, and cats scratch their back ear with their back ear. Cats have many ears, as you know, so they can hear in all directions. Sometimes a cat will leave an ear in a room and go out to find out what other people are saying about it behind its back. Remember that for your biology exam. Let's make science fail. Make science bad again. No, my cat would scratch her ear with her back leg, like that, yeah? But she had no back leg, and so a little hip would spin round, and and she's there stretching her head, thinking, why is this not working? And if I saw her doing it, I'd make my hand like a shape of a claw and go like that to try and make the same movement. And she loved it, bless her. So yeah, it feels his legs are still there. That's a pretty horrific image, isn't it, really? A man with one limb trying to scratch his itching legs that aren't there. That's a horrible image of the effect of war, isn't it? Yeah? Again, let's start thinking about this theme of heroes. Heroes, as Francis says right at the start, like, the brave pilots with their scarves flowing. Oh, yes, pip, pip, let's go and shoot down some planes. But it's not really like that. Heroes are people like him who now has one limb. Oh, it's horrific, and he's in pain all the time. Other points raised here. You're a big hero, Enrico says. A Silver Star hero. Ooh. Silver Star is the second highest award you can get in the American Army. Purple Heart is the absolute top. Then Silver Star. You get it for bravery. Francis is a hero. But when Enrico says you're a big hero, he responds by saying, I'm not a hero, of course, and I turned away in disgust. All right. Sometimes when we do something and someone praises us, we feel a little embarrassed, don't we? That's normal. Disgust, though? That's a very strong word. What's going on? So again, another little hint. There's something weird going on here. Why is it? He's someone who's won a medal for bravery, but he's disgusted by the thought of him being a hero. That's peculiar. There's a few different weird things going on here, aren't there? And then at the end again he says, it will always be Nicole, but I wonder if I'll ever see her again. So this girl that he's longing after, what is going on there? Okay, I'm going to stop there because this is a natural break. We are going to the next part is a flashback. So we're going to learn a bit of the background. This is how we will fill in the gaps for a lot of these questions about him. Okay. If there are any questions, fire away. I will, of course, this will automatically get posted onto Facebook once the stream finishes, and I'll edit out the start and end bits and put it on YouTube as well, in case you missed bits or just want to refer back to it. I've got a couple of context videos nearly ready to roll, so I'll pop them up on YouTube and link to them as well. And what I always do with these streams is I'll leave it playing for 10 minutes after with some music in the background, and if you want to throw any questions on that, I can pick them up and ask them either tomorrow or by typing in an answer for you. So, but while I'm waffling, if there's any more questions, give me a shout. Looking here, I do find when you go onto the live studio of this that not all comments seem to show up, and I can't for the life of me fathom out why. I'll look later and I'll say, oh, hang on, there were a few others. So I all the ones I can see I have seen. So, okie dokie, I'll stick the end stream thing on, and I'll see you at 10:30 tomorrow then. Adios, muchachos.